It's time to us to return to the world of crime.
Oh, you Loki.
Yes, the world of Loki. The world is Loki. But no, it's time to talk about some Yakuza again.
Yakuza.
As we're well over the halfway mark of Al experiences the Yakuza series now at this point.
It's wild, right?
We only have 3 more games left. 2 Yakuza and then Judgment.
And then we're going to replay 7.
Yes. I've officially now played all the Yakuza games.
Yay!
So there's that.
And you get to pre-order Lost Judgment?
Lost Judgment.
Yeah. Because that just got announced.
Yeah. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Seasonal Anime Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc, Al, and Ladium, who is very sleepy.
Hello, yes I am.
Sleepy Al strikes again.
So sleepy.
And yes, this is episode 229, and we are talking about Yakuza 4. It's the sequel to Yakuza 3. A game that came out about 13 months after Yakuza 3, and boy does it show.
Wow.
This game came out on the PlayStation 3, the power of the PlayStation 3, in Japan on March 18th, 2010, in North America on March 15th, 2011, and then you're in Europe on March 18th, 2011. The remaster came out on the PS4 in Japan on January 17th, 2019, 2 days before my birthday. And then worldwide on October 29th, 2019, and then came out on PC and Xbox on January 28th, 2021. I am going to give you a hot take here. I don't know exactly if it's a hot take or not because I don't really pay attention to what people say about the Yakuza series and what game's good or what game's bad. This is my least favorite Yakuza game.
I agree with you. I mean, I haven't played all the Yakuza games, obviously, but so far this is my least favorite.
Yeah. I think it's
felt like not strong.
It's a combination, I think, of like the turnover between this 3 and 4 is just very quick. And you can really tell where like this just kind of feels like a reskin of 3 in a lot of ways. There is definitely some new stuff here and there, especially like character-wise. There's a lot of new stuff there. But like just mechanically, it's basically 3 again. Graphically, it's 3 again. Like there really wasn't a whole lot done to the engine or anything to differentiate it from 3 and 4. And also because this is the first game where you have multiple protagonists, and the way they put Kiryu at the end of the game, I think really hurts it. Because like
I agree.
I think the 3 characters they're good in their own ways. I think, Akiyama and Saejima are good by themselves. The cop character I'm like on. But there's a lot of just like, we have to establish this character and make you care about them in a short amount of time and then do it again and then do it again. And then, oh, here's Kiryu.
Yeah.
Here's a character you know.
With a distinct lack of dad squat this time.
And I think as well, like, there's a distinct lack of new places to go. Like, 90% of this game takes place in Kamurocho. There is some new areas to Kamurocho, which I don't think are really well implemented. And, like, even when you get to go to, like, Okinawa to hang out with Kiryu and everything, like, you don't really go to Okinawa. You go to, like, the area around Morning Glory that has just been there, and then you don't even go into the town. You kind of, like, you go to a specific area in town at one point, and then that's it.
Yeah, you don't get to explore the town.
Yeah,
at
which
all,
is disappointing.
Yeah. Didn't get to go golfing in the town.
No, we could have went golfing, but we just never went golfing.
But not in the town.
True. Could not take the train and go golfing.
With our weird happy president man.
Yeah, what a shame.
Tragic.
So yeah. And I think as well, like, just story-wise is kind of weak.
Yeah.
Like, the main villain and all that sort of stuff. Like, there's some twists and turns here and there, but, like, it's nothing that I'm just like, we haven't seen this before in the series previously, and just, like, it's just like, it is what it is. I'm curious, like, going through this game and our thoughts on it, I'm very curious to see, like, when we finish 5, because 5 is, I think, even more bombastic, where, 5 protagonists, 5 different locations, and they got to interconnect all of those stories together. Like we'll see if like we have the same thoughts or similar thoughts with how it is with 4, or if they'll be different or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know 5 is controversial in terms of how people think about it.
Really?
Because I think some people think it's just like a little all over the place, but then some other people just enjoy it as well. So it is what it is. Spoilers: a lot of people have thoughts about the Yakuza games.
What?
So yeah, yeah, this was a bit of a disappointment, I think, which is unfortunate. But let's dive into this game as a whole.
Okay.
We'll talk about some new stuff that they've added into this game and some trivia here on the get-go. Hey, Gino, this is the last game to feature the massage parlor as a playable minigame, and we didn't even do it in this game.
We didn't do it in this game because it sucked in the last game.
I was like, that's probably just the same thing.
Yeah.
The remastered version of Yakuza 4 uses Yakuza Kiwami cutscenes for flashbacks rather than the original Yakuza, which I think they literally use it for like 1 point.
Yes.
And that's it.
It's basically like the one cutscene with the like vault and the money.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
In Yakuza 4, the protagonists represent the 4 Eastern gods.
What? What?
Tanimura represents the Black Tortoise or Genbu, as he focuses the most on defense, parrying. Out of the 4 player characters, is the most down-to-earth. Saejima is the White Tiger or Byakko, as he is the most cynical of the 4 and possesses the most brute strength. Akiyama represents the Vermilion Bird or Suzaku, as he is the most elegance, speed and flow out of the 4 protagonists and is the most idealistic. And Kiryu represents the Azure Dragon or Siryu, as he is the most balanced of the characters and also the most experienced and wise.
Well, I never would have put any of that together.
That's apparently a thing. Also, those are all like bosses in Final Fantasy 14.
They're bosses in like
everything.
Most Japanese media.
There's also, let's see here, mini games. Most of the mini games are basically the same. There's cabaret stuff. There's pool. There's darts. There's bowling. There's a more expanded karaoke this time.
Mm-hmm.
But not necessarily super expanded because not everyone gets songs.
Which was really upsetting.
It's mostly when you play as Akiyama, you get stuff, and when you play as Kiryu, you get stuff.
Yeah.
Which Akiyama has some good stuff because he gets to sing with Hana and everything, and then Kiryu gets Machine Gun Kiss.
Yes,
which is
he does.
Very good.
He's got a full clip of love for you. Not 1 kiss, not 100 kisses, a full clip. God, that song rules.
Yes.
And he could sing it in the wrestling gear.
Yes, we found that out when we went through a brief bit of premium adventure, which was very good.
That was amazing.
Oh man. A lot of the shops and stuff return. Most notably, I think the biggest thing is that there's like an underground part of Kamurocho now that you can view and everything. Basically like the far southern street, there's always like these little like subway entrances you could see, but you could never go down. In this game, you can go down them, and there's like there's a bar, there's a dress shop, and then also leads into like an underground parking garage that leads you into like various stuff as well. There's a whole underground like sewage system you can go through, and then there's also like rooftops that you can just maneuver about and everything, which they basically kind of use those sorts of things in like 6 and I think Kiwami 2 as well, where you can get up on the roof of buildings and such, and you can I think go down into some of the sewers in those games, but like I think it just works better because it just feels more free flowing because of the way the Dragon engine works, rather than this game where it's just like you are constrained to specific routes, and it's more like here's just a new location rather than like, oh, I'm just free-flowingly going up this building into the roof.
It was weird.
Yeah. I don't think it was as well implemented as they would have wanted it to be.
Which, speaking of not well implemented, man, those reused revelations.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Oof.
Revelations are returning from the last game as well, but like some characters have specific ones, but then they'll reuse those later on for other characters. Like I think we didn't even get to do Curious for whatever reason. I don't know how we didn't unlock it or whatnot. But like
because we didn't go to talk to the guy.
Right. But like all of his were just reused ones that they have already we've already done with other characters.
Mhm.
So it's just like, why even bother at that point?
I think like wasn't Saijima's also just like a repeat? Although his were fantastic because he just like whittles wood.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, it just felt like they're like the year of development in between 3 and 4 just really feels like they had to cut corners here and there and just like make sure we got this game out on time.
I would have rather they just had one a piece and they all be unique
Yeah.
than have multiple and then they also overlap.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of terribly implemented things, man, that pachinko song that repeats like every 10
I mean, that
seconds.
could just be a pachinko thing.
Oh,
I guess that is a new thing as well because you can go into the pachinko parlor, which I don't think you could previously in other games at this point. So if you really want to play pachinko, that's a thing you can do.
ugh. And regrettably, fishing is still terrible.
Yes.
But we did have that like weird demon fish that we kept with us.
We had a mutated freak fish.
Yeah, mutated freak fish.
Yeah, I think I'm confusing 5 and 4, but I think 4 is the one where I was like, this is worse than 3.
And then 5 you just gave up on.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think 5 was the worst out of them, but yeah, 4 is. I think they just didn't change anything.
And you didn't like it in 3 to begin with.
Yeah,
so.
it's not great.
And then 5, they're just like, well, what if we take a bad system and make it even worse?
And I'm just like, no, thank you.
It's regrettable because fishing is great.
And there's been decent fishing in these games before, but I think it's mostly in the newer games where they're like, what if we made this actually decent?
Yeah.
And not terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's yeah. I don't think there's anything else that we need to go over. So there is actually some things where like, the newer characters will have like specific mini games that they can do.
Mm-hmm.
Akiyama can do the hostess thing that was in Yakuza 3. So that's not really new, but it like literally is basically the same thing. But I think they do add, I think, a few changes to it, but it's not enough to make you be like, oh man, I really want to do this mode again.
Mm-mm. And then, hey, do you want to do this side quest with this guy 3 different times or 4 different times about like, let's learn about hostesses?
Yeah, that's oof.
Oof.
Oofa doofa. Saijima has a thing where you can train fighters to win tournaments in like the Coliseum, which you really didn't dive into that because I think we did it once and I was like, eh.
Yeah.
And then Tanimura can basically do or break up like specific like little crimes that occur in the city when you get them on your radio,
Crime.
which is fine. Like, but the only thing was like they just gave you money for them, and I was just like, that's not a good enough incentive for me to keep doing these.
Nope.
Then apparently Kiryu has a thing called Team Encounter Battle where you fight gangs.
What?
I don't remember even seeing that.
No, I don't either.
But it could have just been a thing where we were just kind of, I was like, I'm just going to mainline through the rest of this game.
Maybe it was those like guys who kept showing up in the different colors.
That could have been it.
Like the old color squads that used to hang out in Kamurocho.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then each character also has specific fighting styles. Kiryu basically has his same fighting style he's had for all the games. But basically, it's the same thing as 3. Akiyama, this says, uses more Taekwondo. He's more a kicky boy.
He's very kicky.
Saijima is just, he's a strong boy. He's more slow, but he's like, just will wail on you and also like does grappling attacks with like wrestling style stuff as well. And then Tanimura he's more defensive based, so he uses like Aikido and Jiu-Jitsu. So he'll just like parry stuff and also just, like grab people and like just break their arm. Ow. As you do. Ow. And I think none of these Wikipedia pages have like anything like, oh, substantial that they had to change for the remaster. But there is a substantial change that they had to do for the remaster.
Yes.
And that pertains to one of the new characters, Tanimura.
Yes.
So originally, back when this game came out in 2010, 2011, Tanimura was played they brought an actual actor in to like face scan and have him voice him and everything, like they did with what's his face in Yakuza 3, which they only had him for voice acting at that point. The Battle Royale kid.
Oh, right. Fujiwara.
Yes. So Tanimura in this game originally was played by Hiroki Narimiya, who had to get recast because of stuff, and he was recast in the remaster by Toshiki Masuda. You went to look up, okay, why did this guy get recast and everything? And you're like, he faxed in a thing saying he retired because of these allegations. Didn't we read something about that before? And lo and behold, this is the same guy who played Phoenix Wright in the Ace Attorney live action film, where we talked about him faxing in a thing saying, hey, I'm retiring because of allegations of drug use.
It's the
Same guy.
And I'm so upset because like he was really good as Phoenix, so he probably would have been really good. But you know, apparently you gotta fax in your resignation if you do cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
Allegedly.
Keyword there. That is the second time in like the past 2 years that the Yakuza team had to recast someone due to alleged drug use.
Wild.
In a video game. This time, at least they didn't have to like do a recall and pull the game off shelves. They're just like, we might as well just do this because we're remastering it.
It was just hilarious. Like I went to the wiki and I'm like, that's oddly specific, and I very much remember that happening. Is this a thing that people do when they did bad things? Do they just fax? Turns out no, it's just the same guy. He just really liked that fax machine.
Oh man,
it was funny. I mean, not for him. It kind of sucks for him, but
it was just funny because you were like, did this happen before? Like that can't just be a wild coincidence.
It is Phoenix.
Yep. Well, I don't think there's anything else really that's like new to talk about with the game. Unless I'm forgetting something.
I mean, other than the boys.
Yeah. I think they also changed like leveling in this game.
Oh, right.
Because it's got the orbs instead of just like, here's skill points. Which is a better system, I think. But it's basically kind of just the same thing. Well, I guess with all that out of the way, do you want to talk about the story of Yakuza 4?
Yep.
And all 4 characters in this video game?
Yep.
Actually, I gotta look something up here very quickly.
Not allowed.
How dare you? I saw it and then immediately it's gone.
Oh no.
Okay, so this takes place a year after the events of Yakuza 3. So we are in the
Yes.
year 2010. And we start the game with Shun Akiyama. New character. New beginnings.
New dude.
Akiyama is a moneylender. He owns the company Sky Finance. He runs it out of the same building that New Serena is in. The company is basically him and his secretary Hana.
Who is great.
Yes. And they run the place. His whole thing is that like, he's the good money lender. He'll lend people money with no like, interest or anything, or all that sort of stuff. All they have to do is like pass a test of his, and if they do that, he'll give them money just like, there you go. And the whole thing is like, people who go to him basically never go back to him.
Yeah.
So like he's suspicious to many people in the underworld because of the way he operates his stuff. So we begin the game with him. He goes and visits the offices of Kanemura Enterprises. It is a subsidiary of the Tojo clan and the Shibata family. Akiyama lent money to the patriarch Kanemura and it's just like, hey, what's up? And also he's like good with one of the officers in this family, Hiroaki Arai, because Arai basically saved his life at one point. So he's like, this guy's probably a good dude.
He's a good fella.
Yeah. So Akiyama goes to the office. The Kanimura isn't there, so he talks to
Kiddo.
some of the kids that are there. One of them is Takeshi Kido. He is basically another one of the higher ups in this family. But also we just call him Kiddo because that's the way his name looks every time.
And he's a baby.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he at least looks younger than everybody else. I don't know that he actually is.
Yeah. They're having this whole discussion about how like there's this rival clan to the Tojo clan called the Ueno Seiwa that are causing trouble at a club that's run by Kanimura and everything. And they're like, oh, we got to figure out how to do this, but also things are tense. Oh, I don't know. We don't want to mess up the reputation and everything. And Akiyama's like, what if you boys did something about it? Hey. I'll go help you. So Akiyama goes to this club and then he picks a fight with these dudes and he beats them up. And then Arai shows up.
I love that he just knocks that one dude out cold. Like, just one. He's out on the bench.
Once Arai shows up, this other dude basically thinks Akiyama's with the Tojo and draws a gun on him. Arai's like, hey, what if we don't do this? And then he gets shot. And then he's like, oh, this is not good. Those dudes run away. Arai runs after them. And then Akiyama goes back to Sky Finance because Hana calls him and is like, hey, something's happening. And then he's like heading back to the building and hears a gunshot. And he's like, hey, that's not good. And then he sees Arai standing over the body of the dude that was just antagonized them. And that dude is dead.
He dropped a few of his brains on the vending machine.
A little bit, yeah. And then Arai just leaves.
Yeah, he's like, I'm out of here.
And then this
cop kid shows up.
Yes, Tanimura, who we don't know is Tanimura at this point, shows up and is like, well, that's weird. That guy just fled. Anyways, you should probably get out of here too, or else they're gonna get you. But the actual cops show up and then they take Akiyama into custody because they think he's the murderer.
Yeah, I mean, he was there with the body.
It's true. After that, we get a flashback, not a frashback.
A flashback.
Flashback to 2005 at the events of the end of Yakuza 1, where Akiyama is homeless and he witnesses the bombing of the Millennium Tower and all the money that falls out, and then that's how he basically gathers up a bunch of money, and that becomes the impetus for him being able to open up Sky Finance and all this sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then back in the present, Akiyama gets released from police custody because Hana was like, "Hey, he wasn't the shooter. What the heck?"
Thanks, Hana.
This homicide detective that's assigned to the case, Junji Suguichi, warns Akiyama, is like, hey, stay away from all this Yakuza business. That's not good. Oh, by the way, Kanimura got murdered while you were in custody. That's bad.
Whoops.
Akiyama goes back to Sky Finance. He's met with a new client, a mysterious woman who just goes by the name of Lily.
Lily.
She basically heavily resembles Akiyama's old girlfriend, so he's just like, oh, I guess I'll just
Which we didn't know that at the time. He looked at
a photo, yeah,
in his office, and we're like, whoa, it's the same girl. It's not the same girl, but we don't know that yet.
No. Lily wants a loan.
Of a lot of money.
She wants 100 million yen, and Akiyama's like, all right, do my test, and then we'll see what happens. And then he's like,
oh, by the way, he also owns a hostess club.
Yes. He basically is like, hey, come back the next day. I'll give you the test. I'll tell you what the test is, and then we'll figure it out from there. Akiyama meets up with Kiddo afterwards, and they're basically like, yo, what the heck happened? They learned that the police are figuring that the murderer of Kanimura is a woman, because Kanimura was found half naked. There was a lipstick stain on his neck. And I think Akiyama was like, oh, it must have been a femme fatale.
I legit forgot that man died.
Yeah, it really does not matter at the end of things.
No.
A bunch of folks from the Shibata family show up because they're trying to find Arai. And they're like, hey, do you guys know where he's at? And they're like, nope. And they're like, okay, let's fight you anyways. So they beat all those folks up. Cops show up. Akiyama runs away. He goes back to Sky Finance, and then apparently, the Shibata dudes would try to raid Sky Finance, only for Hana to just beat him up.
Hana's amazing.
It's true. After that, we head to the Tojo clan headquarters, where the 6th chairman, Daigo Dojima,
hey, I know that guy.
meets up with the captain of the Ueno Seiwa clan, Isao Katsuragi. And Daigo's like, hey, do you want a bunch of money because we accidentally murdered your dude? Also, here's the patriarch of the Shibata family. We cut his finger off. You want that? And Katsuragi's like, no, I don't want.
That's old-fashioned.
I don't want any of that. This guy was a lieutenant for us. He's worth way more than this. What we want you to either kill Majima or give us the Kamurocho Hills project. Daigo's like, no, absolutely not. And then they're like, well, okay, well, hopefully you can figure this out in time. But they're like, oh, this is probably going to be bad.
Yeah.
The next day, Akiyama gets a visit from Suguichi in his office, and this guy's like, hey, trouble's brewing in the Tojo. We're gonna keep cops in front of your place so nothing bad happens. Also, just in case RI shows up, because we were looking for him. Also, the Yakuza are looking for him. Don't get involved. Nakayama's like, I don't care, whatever.
I do what I want.
Lily shows up to find out what her test is, and Akiyama takes her to the hostess club he owns, Elise, and is like, hey, if you want to qualify for this loan, you're gonna work here for 3 days. You got to earn 3 million yen in sales, and if you do that, I'll give you all the money you want, no questions asked. So basically, he has to kind of teach her how the ways of being a hostess and everything. He goes on a fake date, totally fake, to teach her how to treat customers and everything, and then they meet up afterwards after her first day, where he takes her out on the night of the town.
Ooh.
And then they go to a rooftop and they make out.
Yeah, they just straight up start making out. I'm like, whoa.
And then they get interrupted by folks from the Shibata family who are like, hey, where's Arai? And Akiyama's like, I don't know, so I'm gonna beat you up.
He's like, dude, I'm in the middle of making out with this girl. Like, come on.
The best part about that was when I just threw a bunch of people off the roof.
It was fantastic.
Yeet, yeet, yeet.
It's always good when you're able to throw people off the roof or in the water.
It's true.
I appreciate that. It's my favorite thing that you do.
Not
in general, but in Yakuza.
I mean, you're gonna like it in 6 when we're on a harbor town and there's just
when
water
you throw
everywhere.
a baby in the water.
No, we're not throwing the baby in the water. There is one part of that game we will have to intentionally skip because of you.
Uh-oh. Is there a shark?
Yes.
Why is there a shark in a Yakuza game?
There's a part of that game where you go spear fishing,
and
then basically I think one of the bosses is a giant shark. So we will intentionally skip that part.
You can also just tell me to look down and I'll look down.
No, it's fine. We can skip it. It's a side thing, so it's not a big deal.
But is it funny?
Back to this game because we got a ways until we get there.
Yes.
Akiyama meets up with Kiddo. And they're like, hey, we got to find RI before the police or the Shibata family or anyone else does, because they're going to moita him. And then Kiddo's like, why do you want to help him so much? And then Akiyama explains, hey, he saved me when I was really on down in the dumps and everything. It was real bad. Also, here's how I made all my money and everything. And then I was like, hey, this guy saved me, so I'll help him out if I can, whenever possible. Akiyama goes out to collect money from folks.
He's apparently very bad at that.
He's very bad at it.
Hana keeps yelling at him.
Yes. He eventually goes, he's in the Champion District just hanging out, and he finds this bar called Drama Queen, which is allegedly where Lily worked before she came in and wanted to ask for the money and everything because she had a lighter from there. Mm-hmm. He's
a lady outside.
Yeah, and he's snooping around and asking about oh, did this Lily girl work here? And the person asks no, this is not that kind of bar, dude. He walks into the bar and like no one's there, and then goes back to where employees would be, and he finds like that the owner's dead and has been dead for a couple of days.
Smelly.
Also, this owner was a member of the Shibata family.
Mm-hmm.
And Akiyama's like, that's suspicious. Uh-oh. He goes like to Sky Finance, and Hana's been knocked out.
Yep.
Hana wakes up and is like, hey, these folks from the Hatsushiba clan came in and took your ledger, and also they kidnapped Kiddo. So Akiyama's like, well, I'm going to call you an ambulance, and I'm going to go find everything and set all this right. So he busts into their offices and everything, confronts them, and is like, hey, give me your stuff, or give me my stuff back. Give me Kiddo.
Mine.
Hatsushiba reveals that Shibata told him to steal the ledger because they're trying to track down Lily because they think that she has information that they need and everything. The following day, Akiyama gets word about Lily passing her test, that she'd made enough money and everything. So he's like, hey, come to the top of the Millennium Tower and I will give you your money.
The Millennium Tower, nothing bad ever happens there. Or just Millennium Tower in general. It doesn't even have to be the top.
It's true. Akiyama is like, hey, how about I offer you a little incentive here? You don't have to pay me back this money or anything. You just tell me why you've been killing people in the Shibata family. And Lily's like, oh, no, it's not me. And Akiyama's like, no, it's you. It's definitely you.
Definitely you.
You didn't work at the Drama Queen. The Shibata family's trying to find you. Like, something's up here.
What up? Tell me. She's like, I'll pay you back.
And he's like, okay, all right. I guess that's it then. See you later. You're just leaving town. Yeah, because she's also just like, she's heading out. She is leaving town. Akiyama heads back to Sky Finance, and he's like, hey, Hana, I gave Lily the loan. We're probably never seeing her again. Hana's like, what the heck are you doing? Why would you do that? You only did that because she looks like your ex. Also, I'm quitting. Get out of here. I'm out of here. Akiyama's like, oh, crap.
Sad.
Oh, crap.
Oh, no.
A little bit after that, Akiyama gets a call to head back to Elise because there's some Yakuza who are making trouble at the club. So he heads in, and he's met by a lieutenant by the name of Daisaku Minami, who is a lieutenant of the Majima family. He is looking for Lily. Akiyama's like, because he learned that she was working here, and Akiyama's like, no, well, she quit today, and I don't really divulge information about my employees to people willy-nilly.
It's a bad practice.
Yes. So he beats up Minami, and then the big head honcho shows up.
Yep.
Corporate Majima.
It's Corporate Majima again.
Who's like, hey.
The worst Majima.
He tells his lieutenant to stand down, and then Majima is like, tells Akiyama, we are looking to find Lily because we have to protect her. Also, I need to make up for my failure of 25 years ago. And that's how...
little year called 1985.
Yes, and that's how Akiyama's chapter ends, or part of the game ends. Following that, we head to part 2 of the game, and we learn about Taiga Saejima. And we get to see a cutscene we have already actually seen in these games, what we would not have seen if we were actually playing these via release order. Back in Yakuza 0, there is a brief bit about an assassination attempt that Majima and Saejima were going to do together. One thing led to another where Majima gets pulled from it and Saejima goes off and does it by himself.
Mm-hmm.
This game goes into that whole scenario and what exactly happens and what kind of like trickles down from it.
And I had asked when we played that, I was like, man, they made him look like a rough 20 because like, yikes. And I think you had mentioned like, oh, they're using old models, and they were in fact using old models
because they just straight up used the cutscene from this game.
So it's weird that they're like, yeah, 24-year-old Majima looks great. This 20-year-old Majima looking rough. But he's offering you a watermelon in your trying time.
He is. So we start off in 1985 with Saejima. He's 21 years old. He is a part of the Sasai family, which is a part of the Tojo clan and everything. He lives in Kamurocho with his younger sister Yasuko, and then he is oath brothers at this point with Majima, who brings him a melon in his trying times. They have been
and a bunch of guns.
They have been tasked by the leaders to assassinate Yoshiharu Ueno, the chairman of the Ueno Seiwa clan.
What?
And they're like, all right, we're going to do the thing. We are cool. So the day of the assassination comes and Majima doesn't show up. Saejima basically is like, oh, I got to go do this myself. He busts into this ramen shop and shoots all the people there. He kills 18 of the 20 people present.
Ah, yes.
The top Ueno dude is one of the survivors, but also Katsuragi was there as well, and he survives. Because of everything that happened, Saejima gets sentenced to death and has basically been in prison this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to the present of 2010. Saejima has been in prison in Tokyo for 25 years. He is transferred to Okinawa Penitentiary number 2.
Does number 2 is so funny.
Number 2.
Because there's always, this is my guess anyway, there's always a gap of time, like a little pause between punctuation and the next word.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever they do number 2, it's NO.2. That's how they do it. And so you get NO dot pause
2.
And it's really funny. It made me laugh every single time it happened.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I'm so easily amused.
You learn this basically a little bit later in the game, but this correctional facility is basically kind of like is a government-run correctional facility that's like off the books, and is basically where they take like all of like the bad Yakuza folks and just like send them there for them to go die.
It's also like a
it's a for-profit.
It's a
yes,
for-profit.
That's what I wanted to say. Yes. But yeah, like they just let them go there to die either because like the guards will just beat them to death, or they'll just like let them sit there and
rot.
Yeah, essentially. Of course, Saejima, when he goes there, doesn't know this.
Nope.
But you will later on. So he's transferred there and then immediately gets into a fight with people who are in the Ueno Seiwa clan who still hate him. He gets taken.
He just wanted to eat.
Yeah, he just wanted to eat. He gets taken to solitary where he just gets the crap beat out of him by the captain of the guard, Saito. Just the never dying Saito.
Saito is the toughest character in any video game ever.
He's eventually saved though by one Go Hamazaki, who has been in jail after stabbing Kiryu at the end of Yakuza 3.
Like a chump.
He bribed the warden to spare Saejima and also to let him talk to Saejima. Mm-hmm. So Hamazaki comes up and is like, hey, I want you to help me break out of this place because you're very strong and I think we could do this. Saejima's like, no. And then Hamazaki's like, yeah, what if I told you about everything that's transpired in the last 25 years? How your patriarch had to disband his family after everything, then disappeared afterwards. And what if Majima really, just didn't want to come? What if this was a whole setup against you? So over the next couple of days, they basically gather all their stuff they need to do to break out, where they have to like get a grappling hook and then like they have to get like an outfit for Hamazaki. Hamazaki also wants to sneak into the warden's office to get evidence to help him bargain for something once he's out. We don't learn what that is until much later in the game. Saejima has to beat up some guards, where he has to fight Saito like 3 or 4 times, and then eventually they make it to the courtyard. They use the grappling hook to climb up the wall, and they're confronted by Saito again, who just never dies. It's true. Saejima lets Hamazaki climb up first because he's like, this was your plan, I'll whatever. And then Saejima beats up the folks again. He climbs up the wall and Hamazaki helps him up. Hamazaki lets Saejima go down first. Mm-hmm. But then Saito like shoots Hamazaki and he's like, oh no. Hamazaki tells Saejima that you need to get out of here. Once you make it to Okinawa, find Kiryu.
Yep.
He will help you. And then he tackles Saito over the edge of the wall, and they plummet down to the water. So
And Saitama just goes after
and then
him.
Saizuma's like, well, I guess I'm diving down too.
I was like, oh my god, guys. Chaos.
The next morning, we are at Morning Glory, and on the beach, Haruka finds an unconscious Saitama.
Convenient.
Very convenient. Haruka brings, or I think she grabs Kiryu and is like, hey, we need to bring this guy in. And Saitama basically wakes up and is like, what is happening?
I also, he uses the same fake name as Akiyama, right?
Suzuki. Everyone uses this name.
Yep.
It's hilarious.
Because he's like, yeah, my name, that's my name.
I was in a shipwreck. Yep, totally.
Yep.
Definitely.
Kiryu's like, I talked to the Coast Guard and they said that there weren't any shipwrecks. Interesting. You're like, yeah, his buddies in the Coast Guard that he just hangs out with.
He's just become very acclimated to the locals now.
I mean, honestly, like, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
He's a friendly guy. Minus the scrunchy eyebrow.
It's true. Kiryu basically kind of like figures out like, you've been in jail.
I was in jail.
I know how it is. I get it. So Saijima's like, all right, yeah. I was in prison. I need to go to Tokyo. I need to go get revenge. And Kiryu's like, nope. Not helping you do revenge.
Revenge is bad.
Yeah. And then Saijima's like, well, I need your help. So they have to fight each other. And then Haruka's like, stop fighting. And then Saijima's like, oh boy, I'm very tired. Mate. Mm-hmm.
There's also like the weird moment that I don't remember if it was this part or earlier, but like he like kind of is a creeper about Haruka.
Yeah, it was like where as he woke up, he's just like, it's a lady.
He like pins her on the floor. I'm like, oh god, she's like 13, bro.
Ugh.
Kiryu's like, yeah, you've definitely been in prison. I spent a quarter of my life there, man.
Saitama wakes up again and Kiryu's like, hey, here's some money, here's some clothes, so you can get to Tokyo. Don't go get revenge.
He at one point is like, I'm gonna go get something from the store. Haruka's like, the store's not open, dummy.
He's like, well,
he's like, no,
I can get there in time. But it's basically, I think, like a letter he sends. He leaves him in this whole like
he leaves
in the bag.
A letter in the bag, with the clothes.
But he's like, hey, go do what you gotta do. Just don't go for revenge. I know how that is. It's not gonna end up well for you. Just think things out essentially. So Saitama reads all that and then like dresses up, thanks Haruka for saving him, and then he heads off. And then Kiryu just like walks down the corner like, well, the store is closed. You were right.
Which I don't even know why he did that. It was so weird. Like, he could have just said all that.
That's Kiryu. He has to be very sentimental at times.
That's fair. And then you pointed out that Saitama just wears the same clothes that Kiryu got him forever. Mm-hmm. It's very nice. Saijima's like, you know what? I like this get up.
Yeah.
He's like, Kiryu's got taste. Kiryu's like, yeah. See?
Yoosh.
I got taste.
Someone finally agrees.
I spent 2,000 yen on that one kid's outfit.
Saitama heads to Tokyo, and he's like, all right, I need to go find leads on my boss, what happened, and everything. He eventually summons in the Kiddo, fighting off the Shibata family, and he's like, hey, what are you doing? You're fighting the Shibata family. Oh, that's cool. We didn't like them. I'll help you fight them. And the Kiddo's like, oh my god, you're Saitama. You're like a legend. And Saijima's like,
Also, his stupid hair.
Yeah, his hair's not great.
His hair's bad.
Kiddo helps him, or like lets him into the hideout in the theater square, or the underground of theater square, where you get to like meet some cats.
Yeah, the
We got to
kitties.
name the kitties Loki and Maxwell, and that was fun.
No, Loki.
And then they left, and they were never seen again.
Oh.
But basically, Kiddo informs him like, hey, if you need to find something, there is this mysterious information broker in Kamurocho that's known as the Florist, and if anyone can find anything, it's that person. But you need to figure out like how to eventually find them. So Saejima has to go investigate how to do that, and then he's basically led to Purgatory, and eventually meets up with the Florist, and he's like, hey, could you tell me about Sasai and where he's at? And the Florist is like, okay, I will give you your information. You have to come into my Coliseum and win this death match.
Yep.
So Saejima fights this Russian dude, beats him up, and the crowd's like, yeah, murder him. Kill him. And Saejima's like, how dare you, what bloodshed and everything. You don't know what murdering does to you. Trauma.
He starts crying in the middle of
He
the
does.
thing, and I was like, "Oh man, this is intense."
It's a lot.
No, I touched the flea medicine.
You fool.
Oh no.
You've goofed.
Oh no.
So yeah, Saejima just leaves, and then afterwards he's approached by the Florist and is like, all right,
You did what I wanted.
I'll give you
to
the
do.
information because that was a test, and if you would have killed that guy, definitely would not have helped you at all. So the Florist takes Saejima back to his office, and he's like, here's everything that happened after the hit. The Ueno Seiwa ordered the death of Sasai. Sasai went into hiding, and eventually he went homeless. He became homeless. The family was disbanded and everything, and he basically started working for me. But also, he's not in good shape anymore. He's in really rough shape. So
Not the same guy.
the Florist brings in like one of his men to bring in Sasai, and Sasai is just rough.
He's basically like a vegetable.
Yeah. Saejima like literally like, just breaks down and embraces him and is like, don't you recognize me? Don't you recognize me? And the Florist is like, he's not going to do that. But then like Sasai literally like the light flashes in him for once, and like he says Saejima's name, and everyone's just like, oh, all right, wild.
Then they like the whole like the guy that was sitting on the bus. Do you know who that guy was? It was Einstein type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, do you know who brought him in? It was
Majima. So after that, Saejima heads back to the hideout. He's confronted by Minami, the lieutenant of the Majima family, who beat up Kido and the homeless guys. And Minami's like, hey, got a message from the boss. He wants to see you in his office at the Millennium Tower. Saejima's like, all right, guess I'm meeting Majima. We're going to hash all this out. Kido asks him, he's like, do you have any regrets about doing that hit and everything? And Saejima's like, I am very remorseful for the lives I took, but I would do it again if I had to. It's the way things go.
It's for the family.
Saejima heads to the Millennium Tower. He's got to avoid the cops because the cops are out more in force because they're trying to find Saejima.
God, that was annoying though.
Very annoying.
Like we had to go such a weird way, and you were going not those ways for like all the side quests.
Yeah, that was dumb.
They're like, what if you go about like all this roof part and go through this underground part and do all this? Like, oh my God, you don't have to do all that. You just go this other street.
So he makes it to the Millennium Tower. He's got to beat up a bunch of the members of the Majima family because they want to see if he's actually still Saejima. Saejima beats them all up. And then Majima kind of comes out of the elevator and is like, all right, let's go.
Hello.
We're going to go have a little chit chat. And they literally, Majima lines up all his guys to like give them a path to the batting center so that none of the cops can mess with them. It's a wild sight.
It's such a power move. God, Majima.
So they head to the batting center because that was like their hangout and everything. And Saejima was like, all right, you're going to tell me what happened 25 years ago. Why did you appear? And Majima kind of is like coy about it and just doesn't want to talk about it. He just wants to, hit some baseballs. And then Saejima like literally like grabs one of the balls before Majima's going to hit it and is like, you're going to tell me what happened.
Which was wild. It was like, oh my God, how did he not hit his hand?
So of course you have to fight because you
Yes.
gotta do that. You beat up Majima, and then basically Majima tells you what happened, and you get like it's a an expanded version of what you kind of see in Zero, although they've retconned some stuff in Zero from what actually happens in this game.
Actually, I looked it up and they didn't.
Well, I think there's like some like the eye stab is different.
Apparently, they used the same cutscene.
Is it? I
I looked it
swear the
up.
eye thing is different.
I looked it up.
Hmm.
The thing that they added in Zero was just the involvement of the weird bald man. I swear I looked it up. And they're like, yeah, this is the same.
Regardless,
It's basically the same
Yeah.
as what it was.
basically Majima got called into a meeting with Shibata, and Shibata's like, "Hey, we're not gonna let you do that. That would be bad for you, because you're a member of the Dojima, or you're around the Dojima family. So we can't have you involved in this. Also, this is a setup.
Also, now we're going to take your eyeball because you're yelling at us and trying to beat us
Also,
up.
because you don't want to help us and not betray your brother, we're gonna take your eyeball and just keep you captured for a while."
Sucked.
Mm-hmm.
I love that they're just like laid out on the floor of the batting cages, like
Just chit
having
chatting.
this heart to heart.
Yeah, it makes sense though.
Oh yeah, it totally does. I mean, it's very, very on brand for Majima.
Uh-huh. So you get the explanation there, and then basically that's the end of Saijima's section of the game. After that, we head to part 3. We meet up with Masayoshi Tanimura, who is a detective in the Tokyo Police Community Safety Division.
Ooh.
He's also known as the Parasite of Kamurocho.
Yeah, which they don't really explain that very well.
Yeah. So this begins where Tanimura is getting chastised by his boss, Satoshi Hisai, and also by Suguichi, because he was doing misconduct on the job because he was gambling.
Gambling.
How dare he? Also, he's helping out people in Malaysia. How dare he?
Yeah, we finally get to go back to Little Asia.
Mhm.
They're like, hey, you need somebody who can speak other languages to get into here.
And it's him.
It's him. He speaks other languages.
Tanimura like goes around and he has to find the guy who like ratted him out and beats him up.
Yep.
And then eventually he receives a tip from one of the businesses he takes money from. They're like, "Hey, we found this girl you've been looking for a long time. She's here." And Tanimura's like, "Oh, he's been looking for Yasuko Saejima he's not like recently, but for years he's been looking for her." He basically,
because it was something that was like in his dad's notebook.
yes. Back in '85, his dad was investigating the Ueno hit when his dad was suddenly murdered, and one of the final entries in his logbook was like, "I'm going to go meet with Yasuko Saejima." So he's been trying to find her to figure out why his dad wanted to meet up with her. So he finds her at this nail salon where she's working, and Tanimura wants to like talk to her about it, but then some Shibata folks show up and are like, "Hey, we need this girl." And then they basically take her and run away. Tanimura basically follows them to the docks, fights them all, and then he has to make his way to Shibata's office where Patriarch Shibata is. He is meeting up with, or he's in like an office where Yasuko's tied up. Also, RI is there.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
They also like rip open her shirt, which is really bad.
Yeah. They basically are like, yeah, the murder of that one Ueno kid, yeah, that was a whole thing. We wanted that to happen. That wasn't just a random occurrence. That was all part of a plan. And basically, Shibata and Katsuragi of the Ueno Seiwa are trying to work together to force the Tojo clan to give the Ueno Seiwa the Kamurocho Hills project. And then Shibata's like, wants to do bad things to Yasuko. And
Yeah.
then Arai's like, you're not doing that. I'm going to murder you. So he shoots Shibata and is like, yeah, we don't need you in the plan anymore. But we need Yasuko, so you can't do anything to her. And he's also like,
I can't really be mad
yeah.
that he shot this guy. Like, Uri sucks,
Mhm.
but at least he stopped that nonsense.
Yeah.
Like, no. Down.
Damn. They also talk, like, Shibata mentioned something about how Katsuragi wants to keep quiet about the truth about the Ueno hit. And then Tanimura busts in and is like, hey, I'm going to arrest you. And Arai's like, no, I'm out of here. And he tries to question Shibata about it, but then Shibata just dies. But he's able to get Yasuko out of there. So he takes her back to Homeland, which is this little restaurant in Little Asia where he hangs out and everything.
It's like his home base, basically.
He questions her about meeting his dad 25 years ago, and then she's like, yeah, he never showed up. The only thing he sent me was a message saying, get out of Tokyo. He asks her about like why she's killing the Shibata men, and then she reveals that Katsuragi of the Ueno Seiwa got in contact with her and told her to murder these folks, and if she did that, he would help her find a way, or he would basically give her a way to see her brother.
It was either that or give 100 million yen.
Yes. And since she doesn't have that money, she's gonna do the moida.
The moida.
But then Katsuragi's like, hey, what if you kill more and more people?
Woo.
And she's like, no, let me get money instead. So Tanimura basically convinces her, like, hey, give me the money. I'll get a meeting with Katsuragi, and I'll figure out exactly what happened here. So he has to go get the money from like the underground parking garage. It's in a car. He gets that. Yasuko heads off to Okinawa because she learns that that's where her brother's been transferred to.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tanimura gets into contact with Katsuragi. They agree to meet in front of the Millennium Tower the next day in broad daylight. So nothing shady happens, except shady things happen.
Always.
We get a little walk and talk where Katsuragi's like, hey, your dad got killed because he found out the truth. So Katsuragi and Shibata they made it so they wanted Saejima to attack the Ueno and the officers. So basically all of Katsuragi's rivals got killed. Ueno would survive. And then Katsuragi would be like, I'm going up. And then Shibata would also be like, I'm going up too. Katsuragi says, like, hey, I didn't murder your dad. But maybe it was some people in the police that helped cover it up. Interesting. And then he's also like, yeah, Saejima didn't kill all those men in 85. That was me.
I did it.
And Timer's like,
all the bullets, rubber bullets.
Timer's like, huh? But then he gets surrounded by a bunch of Ueno Seiwa folks because Katsuragi basically led him into a trap to moida him. But then Suguichi and some other cops show up and are like, we're gonna arrest you all. Ho ho ho.
Totally gonna arrest him. Totally.
Tanimura grabs the money back and heads back to Little Asia. He gets back there and he finds his boss, Chief Asai, is there. And basically Suichi apparently told him to go check on Tanimura's friends. Not suspicious or anything. Tanimura's like, hey, here's everything Katsuragi told me. Yeah, that weird? Hey, you want to go help me find the original case files for the shooting? And Hisai's like, yeah, I can take you there. I know exactly where they are. Let's go. So they go there. Tanimura is able to find the file. He learns who his father's partner in the investigation was, and that is Suguichi.
Uh-huh.
Which this guy never told Tanimura any time at all.
Nope. And this is where we learn more of the, like, bullety rubber bullets were, like, test bullets for the cop time.
Yeah.
And, learn about the shadiness that's going on here.
Shadiness? No.
Mm-hmm. Shadiness in the cops? It's more like
very surprising. Tanimura was like, okay, well, now I have all this money. I'm just going to go bring it back to Sky Finance since I don't need it. he heads there. He meets Akiyama and is like surprised that Akiyama's the owner because he's like, oh, you're the guy I ran into at the murder scene. So Tanimura basically explains everything to Akiyama. Akiyama tells him some stuff as well.
He's like, I don't want this money back.
Also, I don't want this money back.
It would sever my only connection to her.
Yep. They basically learned that Ri and all like Katsuragi are hiding out of the docks. So Tanimura is like gets in contact with the police and everything. Because they're gonna go find the one dude who got murdered, his buddy, who's hiding out of the docks, and go try and take him into custody before anyone else finds him.
Mm-hmm. And it totally works according to plan. Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It doesn't.
It does not go according to plan. It does not. So Tanimura finds this Mishima character, and Mishima's like, yeah, Katsuragi told us to go cause trouble and everything, and then it would be everything fine. But then, like, I went back to home base, and then they were like, oh, we're going to go kill him once we find him. And he's like, oh, God, I got to get out of here. Protect me. But then Mishima gets killed by Suguichi, who's like, hey, I'm the mole. I'm working with Katsuragi. Timer's like, yeah, I figured that as much. Not surprising.
He's like, I'm a Yakuza.
You have way too fancy clothes for a cop at your level.
He's like, your shoes are always clean, and you're like a murder detective. That's no, absolutely not. Your watch way too fancy.
Yes, a bunch of other cops bust in, including Sudo, our helicopter friend.
Helicopter friend.
Yeah. They basically.
And then the cops are completely incompetent.
Yep. So Guichi's like, yeah, you're not gonna do anything. I'm getting out of here. And then Tanimura is like the only one who chases after him.
Yep.
So then we get into a boat chase.
Yeah, conveniently there are two boats there.
And you chase him down to like another dock, and then you get into a fist fight with him, and you beat up Suguichi and everything, and he basically tells you exactly what happened and everything. Where this is where we get the whole rubber bullets thing, where the guns that Saejima had were all full of rubber bullets, and then Katsuragi had real bullets, and he just headshotted all of them.
Like some dudes through the cheeks, and it was messed up.
Suguichi basically gave this whole report to his boss at the time, which was Seishiro Munakata, who was like the chief of the police, I think, at that point or something like that. And he was like, he reads the report and is like, yeah, none of this makes sense.
Yeah, this is dumb.
This is really bad. How did Saejima manage to basically headshot all these guys, just pinpoint accuracy? But then also they had a bunch of like bruising and stuff from getting shot from potentially rubber bullets. That seems very weird. Anyways,
especially because rubber bullets are exclusive to cops.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Anyways, what if you got me in contact with this Katsuragi fella, and I'll just let this report kind of just, fall off my desk, and we'll just never think about it again. And then basically Munakata just uses Suguichi to take out anyone that can be connected to any of the truth, essentially, and that included Tanimura's dad. And then that puts like the cops and also in line with like them getting into like the Kamurocho Hill stuff, and also like wanting to become like a power player in the underground world. It's all just like it's all over the place.
Yeah, it really is.
And then Suguichi's like just like sitting there, is like, oh man, being a corrupt cop sucks. You want to arrest me? I got evidence against Munakata. But then Suguichi gets moited.
And the thing that sucks about this is we both thought it was going to be a really interesting fight because, like, you get handcuffed to him at the beginning.
And then immediately it's like you break off the handcuffs.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's lame. But yeah, he gets moited. I was going to make a joke about complex motives. But my time has passed.
It's true. So the murderer runs away before Tanimura can catch up to him, and then we see.
He does say that there was another mole.
There's another mole in the police force. Back in Little Asia, there's we see Chief Asai has taken Tanimura's friends hostage, which were apparently on orders from Munakata.
Daughter.
Yes, Munakata calls up Hisai and is like, "Hey, murder them folks and Tanimura as well." And then Hisai's like, "Yep, I'll do that," but then he doesn't, and he just shoots himself. But you don't see that because you just hear a gunshot, but only a singular gunshot.
Yep.
That's the key thing there.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the end of Tanemura's, and then we head to Kiryu. Our friend Kazuma Kiryu.
Good dude.
This basically is a few days after Saejima showed up. Hamazaki just randomly washes up ashore. He's alive.
Somehow.
Haruka's like, oh man, we should not let that guy stay here. But Kiryu's like, we should let him stay here and see what's up.
Yeah, she finds him is like, Like she kind of goes into like a PTSD shock.
Which I mean, understandable.
Yeah. Very understandable. Like the whole time he's there, she's very, very uncomfortable. It's like, no. And like she gets between him and Kiryu multiple times.
And Kiryu's just like, hey, maybe he's had a change of heart. Because Kiryu just wants to see the best in people. Hamazaki
Sometimes
eventually
gets him a knife in the gut.
Yeah. Hamazaki eventually wakes up and talks to Kiryu about what happened. And he shows him what he stole from the warden's office, which is records from the prison that show exactly like how that whole prison got set up and everything. And also that the Commissioner Munakata had been embezzling money to build it and everything. And also, you remember that 10 million yen that got stolen from the Tojo clan at Yakuza 1?
Yeah.
Well, hey, it's about to circle back around to being relevant again, because that's also involved with this whole thing.
Yay, money laundering.
Yay. So he shows him all of this, and Hamazaki's like, hey, you need to come to Kamurocho and stop this. Because they're going to try and take over the Tojo clan. And that's very bad. And Kiryu's like, nope, don't want to do that. Don't want to get involved. I got my kids here. I'm kind of tired of getting involved in Tojo affairs. Basically, the next day, Hamazaki's kind of just like hanging out, and Haruka's like, you need to make him leave. Get him out of here. And he's even just like, look, I get it. I understand why you would be mad. I will head off. I'll go turn myself in.
And
Kiryu's like, I'll walk you to walk you there. That's the least I can do.
Haruka the whole time just like, get out of here.
Get out. Monster, get out. They go to the station and they see Yasuko's there, and she's basically like, hey, take me to Okinawa Penitentiary too. I want to see my brother. And they're like, we don't know what you're talking about. That's not a thing.
That doesn't exist.
So she's like leaving, and then they're like, you know about Okinawa Penitentiary number 2? We know about that. You want to come talk to us? So they go to a...
Totally doesn't look suspicious at all. That these guys are like, do you want to come hang out in this abandoned building with us?
They go to the abandoned building, was like where that Yakuza family from 3, the rival one, like their office used to be. And they're basically, it's like, hey, let's chit chat about this. Hey, we know Saejima. We can help you out here. But that all gets interrupted because, hey, Saito's back and a bunch of guards.
Saito also lived.
Yep. So he wants to recapture Hamazaki, but they also want to get Yasuko as well and everything. And they also want to get the ledger back. So Kiryu and Hamazaki have to fight their way through everything. They defeat Saito, and again, after that, Hamazaki's like, you have to take Yasuko and get out of here. Get that ledger to Kamurocho and help her find her brother and do all that. And Kiryu's like, okay, I'll do this. I got you. Yeah, Hamazaki's like, I'll hold everyone off. But then like the two of them leave, and then he's like, oh God, ow, my wounds in my back, pain, blood,
dead,
suffering. But yes, dead. So yeah, Kiryu and Yasuko head off to Kamurocho. They go to New Serena first because that's where you go, where Date is behind the counter.
With the bad music.
Bad music.
Oh, Date, why?
And then also people are doing stuff at Sky Finance before they enter.
Oh, right.
So that is shady. Date is like, hey, I'll help you out here. Real messed up and everything. And then Yasuko kind of explains why she's trying to like save Saejima and everything because of what she did for her and how he was able to save her by basically like paying for a kidney transplant.
Yeah, like her bio dad was not wanting to have anything to
Mm-hmm.
do with her, and Sajin was like, how about you're gonna have something to do with her, whether you like it or not? Give up the kidney. Come on, come on. So he saved her.
Yeah. Kiryu's like, all right, I'm gonna go investigate. And Yasuko's like, oh, I'm coming with you. And he's like, no,
You
not
stay.
allowed. Kiryu's like wants to go see Majima, but once he goes to see Majima, Majima's getting arrested.
Yep.
So they're able to talk very briefly, and Majima's like, yeah, I'm being arrested because Daigo made a deal with the police commissioner. Real weird. Anyways,
Yeah.
stuff's real messed up. We see at Tojo Clan HQ, Munokata's having a meeting with Daigo, and Munokata's like, yeah, the Tojo Clan's gotten too large. We should take control over it. The cops. And Daigo's like, Munokata wants RI to basically become like the captain of the Tojo Clan.
Mm-hmm.
So he can have like a person, a representative essentially. Someone that he can like filter information to and all that sort of stuff. Daigo's like, I guess we gotta do this. Kiryu goes back to New Sarita and Date's knocked out and Yasuko's gone.
She drugged him.
Kiryu's like, well, that was a bad idea. Never let Date watch over anyone. It never goes well.
Nope.
So he basically has to like he has to go and try and find Yasuko, and eventually he finds out like, oh, she was going into a sewer, and then he runs into Akiyama and Tanimura. Neither of these groups know each other or know that they're basically on the same side here. So they have to fight each other. They fight. And Kiryu just beats him up. And he's like, all right, well, I'm going after her again. Going to Purgatory. He heads to the Purgatory and he finds that the florist office is trash and he's been beat up. And the florist is like, hey, Katsuragi showed up. They took over Kamurocho Hills. They took Saejima hostage, and then they also took Yasuko. It's real bad. Also, Kiddo's with them. He's betrayed them. I think at this point, Akiyama and Tanimura have also showed up.
Yeah.
And then also Kiddo told Katsuragi about Akiyama's secret vault, so he has all the money.
No, the money. Which we're both like the whole time, like, Akiyama, really? Like,
not really a very secure way to keep your money.
A single button with like no password or anything.
And then you just turn the wheel and you're in.
Yeah. And it's like, well, your security's terrible. And he's like, I don't trust banks, which like fair because the bank ruined his life. Mm-hmm. But also like invest in some real security, my dude.
It's true.
But he's like, oh man, I knew that Kiddo was doing that because I saw my books were different.
Yeah. Katsuragi basically is like, Munokata is going to betray me, so I need to do all of this to make sure he doesn't do anything to me.
Mm-hmm.
We head back to New Serena with all the boys now. And Akiyama's like, yeah, my money's gone. It's all gone.
Yay.
And Kiryu's like, all right, I've got a plan. Kiryu calls up Katsuragi and is like, hey, I got this ledger full of evidence of Munokata doing some bad stuff. You want it? And Katsuragi's like, what's your catch? Kiryu's like, hey, I just want to meet you. We'll take this exchange. Give me the Saijimas and the money, and I will let you have this.
He's like, you're terrible at this.
So Kiryu basically has to fight his way through all of the Ueno Seiwa guys and then meet Katsuragi at the top of the Kamurocho Hills construction plot, essentially. So basically you go there and you fight a bunch of dudes. Some of these fights are just not good.
Nope.
They are real bad.
Yep.
But eventually Kiryu makes his way up there. He's met with Katsuragi. Kiddo's there. The money's there. Saejima and Yasuko are there. Kiryu hands him the file. Or Kiddo is like the exchanger. He brings Yasuko to Kiryu, and then Kiryu has to hand him the file. He unties Yasuko, but then Kiddo pulls a gun. And Katsuragi's like, kill him. But then Kiddo's like, turns around and shoots Katsuragi instead.
Mm-hmm.
No blood.
No blood.
No blood. And then Arai like shows up and is like, hey, what's up? we're going to take the file instead and give it to Munakata. So Arai gets the file, and then he shoots Kido. And he's like, well, sorry, kid.
Yeah, Kiddo's just like laying on top of the elevator while it's going down with all the money, just bleeding.
Arai leaves. Yasuko unties Saejima. Saejima basically jumps up and like runs towards Katsuragi because he's like, oh, that dude has a bulletproof vest. That dude had a bulletproof vest. I know it. And he definitely did. Katsuragi pulls out another gun and he's like, I saw this coming. But now I must kill all of you. Katsuragi then tries to shoot Saejima, but Yasuko dives in front of him, takes the bullet. She gets shot in the back, and then she like turns around and like pulls a gun, or she had a gun from Tanimura because he gave it to her for protection. She pulls that out and basically just walking towards Katsuragi, and Katsuragi is like just his pants.
She's like, I'm the real murderer of this family.
And then just like shoots him in the head and just murders him.
And then dies.
And then she's like, oh, ow, ow, I got shot in the back. Oh, this sucks. Ow, 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 ow.
At least I got to see my brother
And
again.
I got to see my brother. I saved my brother like he saved me. Now I'm dead.
No.
And then that leads us to part 5, which is basically the finale where everything kind of comes together. You get to view all the boys and everything, if you need to.
Didn't that end with the scene with Arai and Munakata? Didn't that happen in that end of the chapter, or was that later?
No, this is the beginning of.
Oh, okay.
Or at least according to this, it's the beginning. But yeah, basically it's the same thing, regardless. Okay. There's a scene at the police headquarters. Munakata's like, "Hey, good job, you found the file. Woo! Also, why'd you let Kiryu keep that money? That's real dumb. That's a real rookie mistake. Here's a gun. Go mess up Kiryu's kids. Use that to get to him. Kidnap him if you've got to." And Arai's like, "Yeah, no.
That's fucked up.
That's
dude.
not gonna happen. I'm gonna shoot you later."
Blap.
Again,
Blap, blap.
people just do a lot of shooting and then do not confirm that anyone's dead or not.
No, and you definitely should.
Definitely. A few days after that, the boys go and help Saejima, grieve for his sister's loss and everything. They have like a little memorial and everything.
They're all dressed up on their. Well, I was gonna say they're all dressed up nice, but then there's
Some of them are not.
Like, messy as. He's like, I made out with her.
Yay!
Yay!
They basically come to an idea of like Akiyama, or let's just put Akiyama's money on top of the Millennium Tower and just see who shows up.
Yeah.
And then we'll just deal with them once they show up.
Yep.
So the next night, the Millennium Tower, the roof of it, there's 100 billion yen on top of it, just sitting there. Daigo shows up. Kido shows up. Munakata shows up. Not Katsuragi. Katsuragi's dead. Arai shows up. And they're all just like arguing back and forth about this. Also, yeah, Munakata shows up and he's not dead. So they're like,
he's not dead.
Ah, he's like, rubber bullets.
Woo!
But he's also got a bunch of SWAT people with him. He's like, I'm going to take the money for myself.
Those dudes suck.
So before that all can happen, here comes a helicopter that just descends.
Akiyama calls.
Yeah. A helicopter shows up and just scatters the money everywhere. And everyone's like, what do you know?
No, the money.
And then the boys show up.
Yep.
So each boy gets to fight another dude. Akiyama fights Arai. Saejima fights Kido. Kiryu fights Daigo, of course. And then Tanimura fights Munakata. And you do all of those fights. The Akiyama, Saejima, and Kiryu fights are all, relatively routine. The Tanimura fight against Munakata sucks.
It sucked.
Terrible fight.
For when he's like the weakest of the characters. And then they put you against like
it's a bunch of guards, and then Munakata just has a gun. He just keeps shooting you from afar.
It's so
annoying.
And
it keeps running away from you when you try and fight him. So yeah, after you do all that, you beat them all up. Munakata's like, oh, you can't win because you can't kill me, because they'll be like, oh, you murdered the second in command.
This is when he calls.
You
I got
suck.
the call mixed up.
Yeah, the helicopter pilot in that in the original is just some dude.
Just some guy.
Yeah.
This is the call time.
Tanimura is like, yeah, we're not gonna kill you. We got another plan. And then Akiyama's like, Hey, do the thing.
Good thing we know a good guy to write
Yep.
articles.
So Date and Pseudo show up in a helicopter yet again.
And the helicopter
Yep.
boys.
And they are just like,
This time they're useful though.
they're throwing out paper out to the ground and everything because also money has fallen from the Millennium Tower yet again.
Yep.
So this newspaper is just it's Date who wrote a report about Mudokata's corruption and scandals and everything, and it also includes evidence with like the ledger and everything. And Mudokata's like, ah!
I'm gonna shoot this guy.
Mudokata basically draws his gun to shoot Tanimura, and then Akiyama dives in front of him to take the bullet. And he's like, oh, this sucked. But then he's like, wait a minute, I feel okay. And then pulls out like a wad of money, and there's just a bullet through it.
We're like trying to figure out, like, can he go exchange that?
Mm-hmm. And then basically, like, Munokata's like real sad and everything, but then he's like, grabs the gun again because he doesn't want to get arrested and shoots himself in the head.
Yep.
Roll credits. And then our epilogue is a month after everything that went down in the Millennium Tower. There's like a newspaper's like, was the police commissioner's death a suicide or was it all another trick? Joker's trick. Akiyama's back at Sky Finance, just like chilling and everything. The place is kind of a mess because he's like, oh, someone knocks at his door and is like, comes in. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like my secretary left and it's kind of a mess and everything. And this lady is just like, oh, Chief, you really are a mess without me. And it's Hana, but she's like skinnier. and Akima's like, what?
They like almost kiss.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, oh, but I have all your favorite food. Hold on. I have like a ton of them. Because she's like, yeah, I haven't eaten much since I left you.
Yeah.
I love that he's like just been stockpiling her favorite food. He's like, please come back. Hana, come back.
Ooh. Out somewhere else, Date is coming back to the police.
Yeah, apparently he's going to be a cop again.
He's basically going to try and basically reform everything after all the corruption and all that sort of stuff. We learned that RI turned himself in and everything. So Kiryu and Tanimura are like, oh, okay, cool. Good job.
Yeah, because he was a cop.
Yeah. And then, oh yeah, RI was a cop. You're right. He was a Yakuza cop.
Yakuza cop.
And then also, Haruka takes Kiryu to a ceremony at the Tojo clan.
Oh, right.
Which is a big deal. Everyone is out in full force, and the car shows up, and it's Saejima. He's dressed to the nines, except he just dressed like an old man.
He's just like an old man.
And then Daigo and Majima are also there, and is a...
Majima's free.
Yes, Majima is free. It's basically a big old ceremony for the beginning of the Saejima family.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's how the game ends.
Da-da-da. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's the weakest.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bad game.
No, but like compared to everything else we've played,
Mm-hmm.
it's just weak. Like
It
story-wise, I think it's just like there's a lot happening, a lot that they have to do to like establish stuff, but then like just I think a lot of it's kind of just not interesting. And then like the main villains aren't that compelling compared to some of the others we've seen so far in this series.
Tanimura is kind of forgettable.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely forgettable because you do not. I'm pretty sure you never see him again.
Oh my god!
I mean I can double check
man,
here.
there is an overuse of rubber bullets in this.
Yeah, it's just basically they're kind of like cop out of like, oh, we don't want to kill this character yet.
Not dead yet. But we did get, as you mentioned, Machine Gun Kiss, and that's pretty.
It's
legit.
true. Yeah, Tanimura only appears in this game.
Rip. Yeah, he was very forgettable.
Allegedly, people think that it was because of the actor.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they didn't bring him back.
I mean,
because of the controversies and everything.
Yeah.
But then again, like the character we're going to meet in 5 also doesn't show up again, so it's just one of those things where they introduce a new character for 2 of these games and then
But I guess Akiyama and Saishima are here to stick around for a bit.
Yeah, they are. That is true. That is indeed true. So yeah, that's Yakuza 4. Up next, we've got Yakuza 5 on the docket.
Yeah, we've been playing it.
Which did not come out a year after the fact. It actually came out like almost 3 years after the fact. Like it came out in December of 2012. So like 2.5 years. So you can definitely a lot more work went into Yakuza 5, and you can tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can definitely tell.
And then also in the meantime, they put out a sequel to the PSP Yakuza game. So those are the 2 Yakuza games in between 4 and 5.
PSP Yakuza game?
Yes.
What was it?
It's a PSP Yakuza game.
Wow.
I haven't played those, so couldn't tell you. But yeah, eventually we will make our way through Yakuza 5. We are a fifth of the way through it at the moment.
Yeah, we are.
And then we will
got some twists.
We will return to our experiences of the Yakuza series with Yakuza 5, and then we'll do Yakuza 6, and then we'll do Judgment, and then we'll be done.
And then I'm gonna replay 7 because I only got bits of that, and now I'll understand everything.
You'll definitely understand a lot more in that back half.
Yay!
For sure.
Yay!
So yeah, that's Yakuza 4. Probably the weakest game in the series so far, and I guess to me, I would say it's the weakest. Full stop.
Like period.
Because I've played them all now. But yeah.
Man. But it was necessary.
Yeah, I think like if you want to establish these new characters, you need this game, but it is like story-wise and everything else, like it's real forgettable.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's going to do it for this week's episode, unless you have anything else you want to say about this game.
No, I want to go to sleep.
Yeah, okay. That figured as much. So if you'd like more from us, head on over to seasonalanimecheckup.com or sac.cool, where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Jared and Al Watch. And you can find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you want more from Ann Ladium, go to annladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/animecheckup, where we do Twitter. Follow us on TikTok at Anime Checkup as well. You can buy our books, One Shiny Moment of Critical Analysis of Love, Live, Sunshine, and Hot Tubs and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza, get access to unedited versions of the podcast and bonus episodes you can only find there. Next week, no clue.
No
It'll
idea.
be something. That's all I can tell you.
Yep.
So tune in for that.